Something's fishy.
Hey guys, I'm Shark Zone, and in today's video, I'll be explaining why everyone hates VAYNE. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button because it would really help me out a lot. So first, let's start by explaining VAYNE's abilities and what she's capable of doing. Her passive seems to be the only thing to be alright, with it only giving her movement speed when she's running towards a target, which will usually result in you never being able to escape from her, especially paired with her other abilities. In teamfights, if she's fed enough, or if you're in the late game and she's gotten 3 items, then she will chase you down like mice, with her ult tripling the amount of movement speed she can get. Her Q just throughout the game is the most annoying thing you can play against, especially for anyone with skill shots. A skilled VAYNE player can dodge 90% of the champion's skill shot abilities if she uses her Q correctly and predicts where the hooks are being thrown. That's why, even if people try to counter VAYNE's weak early game with the Thresh or Blitzcrank, you may experience the most tilting moments of your life as you try to predict the enemy's VAYNE's movements, but her always being one step ahead of you. Even if she's not using this to dodge skill shots but cut out melee enemies, you actually can't deal damage to her if she buys a simple Blade of the Rune King. Let's take Garen for example, a pretty meta pick, and the reason why I'm choosing him is because VAYNE tends to counter him the best. Garen tries to attack her with Q and E. What will happen is she will auto attack you twice then Q back. You may be able to get an auto attack or 2 off, but she will heal that in seconds with her natural lifesteal from a recommended build. Her auto attack Q combo brings me to her next ability, which is Silver Bolts. After doing 3 consecutive auto attack, VAYNE does, get this, up to 12% true damage. That means she's the most optimal marksman versus tanks, and if she builds Rage Blade, that procs every 2 auto attacks. That's why VAYNE will split push mid game, and no matter what champ she plays against, whether that's Nasus, Aurelia, or Darius, she will win pretty much every time. It's not like VAYNE is meant for only tanks, because with a little bit of critical strike, she is able to 3-shot squishy targets with her auto attacks. You would think I'm over exaggerating until mid game she RQs you for 700 plus damage. Her E is the literal definition of insanity, giving an ADC a guaranteed way to kite back or engage fights onto anyone, with it stunning if land against the wall. You will notice that everything in her kit pairs up really nicely with her R, and that's her monstrous form. Her R is basically a steroided version of what she was before. When she pops R, everyone better run, but guess what? She gets 3 times movement speed so you can't. It makes your Q on a lower cooldown, and when you Q, it makes you invisible for 1 second, which I know doesn't seem like a lot until you've Q'd 5 times in a row after you popped R. When you Q, you become invisible for 1 second, which will give you enough time to set up your E stun against the wall or become the best champ at positioning. When everyone is running at you, that invisibility gives you enough time to put yourself in a perfect spot in teamfights where you can't die or be focused as easily. Since you're short range, you're basically auto attacking whoever's closest to you, but keep in mind with your true damage, you become deadly to everyone. Your R gets added duration for every kill or assist you get like Master Yi, which lets you reset all over the enemy team and is extremely powerful if in the right conditions. So now that I've talked about the good things VAYNE is capable of doing, let's talk about what will happen in most of your games. I don't know why, but when it comes to difficult champs, when they're on the enemy team, they're somehow a smurf, and when they're on your team, they're trash. Let's take Fizz for example, since that tends to be who I play the most, and I'm assuming most of you main him since you're watching this channel. Let's say you stomped your laning phase hard, and now you have a nice 4-0 lead and have the ability to one-shot the enemy VAYNE player if you land your R. Your bot, as usual, gets outskilled by this so-called VAYNE smurf, but anyways, now comes the mid game. Your job is to focus whoever is the most important target, which is VAYNE. Yeah, how? She dashes away from your R, and when you try to dash engage on her with your Q, guess what? Bam, she goes invisible for long enough to get to the side of you, then she E's you against the wall. When that happens, you know it's game over because she's either shredding you in 7 seconds if you're a tank, or bursting you in 3 seconds if you're a squishy target. Let me tell you, if one person dies, your whole team dies, because with that extra added duration on her R, she will be running at your team full speed, massacring all of you. There seriously feels like there's no counterplay when you're playing versus a skilled or fed VAYNE player, since she can really do it all. Split pushing is another problem you will face with her being a legend at it. See, most split pushers like Aurelia or Nasus are melee bruisers that kinda run up to you with their CC and kill you. VAYNE's unique because she doesn't have any of that, just really good tower shredding skills, and usually isn't the one to engage the fights in the first place. How things go is people throw themselves at her and she positions really well to kite them out or stun them against the wall closest to her. The only way you can counter her is with CC, but unless it's a point and click, how can you land a Lux Q if she's dashing everywhere? She will set up insane outplays and make your team look like bronze players after she 1v3s your team in the side lane mid game. Now the thing that's even worse than what I've mentioned before about VAYNE being on the enemy team is when she's on your team. I am so sorry if you main support and have to deal with the worst type of players who main VAYNE. Usually if VAYNE gets banned in champ select by the enemy team, then they won't troll but pick their 41% win rate Ashe. Let's say your teammate does get VAYNE, the playstyle you and your team have to play around her is horrendous. Don't get me wrong, VAYNE can be a strong champ, but she needs to be under these 3 perfect conditions. There's no one able to one-shot her like an assassin, she has 2 or more items, and she needs to safely farm in one lane for 27 minutes straight. Now you see how difficult that can be in solo queue to accomplish, but if you can get her under these 3 conditions, she is a golden champ. If we're not talking about the toxicity from most VAYNE players and just the way they play, they're always the type of players to take aggressive fights that they will never win and attempt to outplay their way to victory. I can't count how many times I've seen VAYNE players play with a Janna support against a Thresh Jhin, go in level 3 thinking that they're gonna win a mini trade that will go in their benefit, to end up getting hooked after she missteps and end up giving first blood. It's actually tragic when VAYNE gets behind because she won't be getting 2 items until the 30-minute mark and spends most of her time in one lane even though her team wants to team fight. It's overall just selfish on their part, with them only having an I have to carry type mentality your team can't adapt to. You have to be by your ADC side 24/7 or else they will die, which means if you want to roam as a support, you better make it worth it because by the time you return bot, your ADC will for sure be dead and your tower might be gone. You always think and say inside your mind, don't worry team, VAYNE scales, we just have to wait a little bit. But then you realize VAYNE has 1 item to the enemy's 3, and on top of that she has 10 deaths, 2 levels behind 24 minutes in. It's like sure, VAYNE does scale, but at that rate the game has to go on for an hour. With an ADC difference that big, your team will want to throw up the surrender vote, and guess who always says no? Yep, you've guessed it right, it's always the VAYNE. They're actually the most delusional players you could ever come across. They think they can win when the enemy team takes 2 inhibs 25 minutes in and the score is 9-34. All of them will get mad and report your team after the game for saying open in all chat then AFKing at fountain. Their never give up mentality can be either really good if your lanes are winning and bot's the only one that got stomped, but it can be the worst thing in the world if everyone wants to give up when the game is a for sure loss. Number 1 ADC to have the least amount of map awareness. I don't know if this comes from them thinking they're invisible or them generally being clueless, but when 2 enemies are spotted on a ward headed their way, her first response is to stay there and attempt to win the fight. I get she can win some situations if she lands a nice E, but don't 1v2 if they can burst you in 3 seconds easily. The best part is when the game ends and you see that defeat screen, then you check the charts to see that the VAYNE has done less damage than her support Janna, and she wonders why. Yes, it's because you've done nothing but farm all game and wait until you get the 3 items that you never bought. Don't get me wrong, we all have had some good experiences with VAYNE, but the majority of them is bad. I've noticed in low elo, it's pretty much a known fact that games tend to go longer to the late game, so who could be better than VAYNE? Yeah, in theory, that seems like a good choice, but in reality, it doesn't matter how long the game goes. Even if the game goes on for an hour, you're still behind on items, and on top of that, you have the most putrid mechanics. I'm sorry to say this to the VAYNE mains, but please, find another champ. No hate to the VAYNE players out there, but I just hate your character. There's really no middle ground when it comes to them because it's either you're playing with a VAYNE player that has 500 games with a hard stuck 50% win rate, or a 10 game VAYNE player who overpredicts their abilities and fails miserably to carry. There sure may be worse champs out there like Yasuo or Lee Sin, but VAYNE takes the #1 spot for most hated ADC by the entire League of Legends community, and I'm certain everyone can agree with that. Anyways guys, I really hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, please smash that like button because it would really help me out a lot. Comment what you want to see next and subscribe to like this in the future. If you haven't, make sure to follow me on Twitch.tv where you can watch some of these videos live. I'm SharkZone here with another video, and I'm out. Peace! Just a reminder, I do stream every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time.